Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Dare to Care. My name is Masha and today I'm talking to Kendy, who I've met at the World Veterinary Association Congress in Taiwan earlier this year. Kendy is an assistant professor and the principal investigator of the One Welfare Epidemiology lab at the Department of Veterinary Medicine at the National University. She is an expert within the fields of animal welfare and ethics, veterinary epidemiology, and veterinary public health. In 2018, she finished her PhD at the Sydney School of Veterinary Science. Later on, she worked on a European One Health program, completed her postdoc on risk assessment of the introduction of the African swine fever virus to Taiwan, and also spent quite some time working as a project lecturer at the university. In this episode, we talk about her research on animal welfare issues, including sheltered and stray dogs, the definition of One Welfare, as well as her future research goals. I hope you enjoy listening. Hello and welcome, Kendy, to the Animal Welfare Podcast, Dare to Care. I'm really happy that you found the time. It's afternoon for you, it's in the morning for me. So we are on two different sides of the world because you are from Taiwan. And I was happy enough to meet you this year earlier on a veterinarian conference. And now we're seeing each other at least online. So I'm really glad to learn more about you and also your work.
Thank you, Marsha. So yes, hi everyone. I'm Kendy from Taiwan. I met Marsha at the World Veterinary Conference, something like that. And at that conference, I was giving a talk, One Welfare Epidemiology. And I will introduce myself a little bit. So I am an assistant professor at the National Chung Hsing University in Taiwan. And I teach animal welfare and veterinary public health here to the vet student. And as a researcher, I am a kind of animal welfare epidemiologist. I do research specifically, mostly on small animal welfare using epidemiological methods to quantify their welfare.
Some of the listeners are students or just have started their career, so they are earlier careers. What made you interested in veterinary medicine, and then later on, what made you really interested in epidemiology?
So I think I started to want to be a vet maybe from high school, because at that time, I don't know, I think I just wanted to do something for animals. At that time, I didn't know too many options. So I thought, okay, that sounds like a good option, to help sick animals. So that's the reason. But then, I think on my 5th year, so in Taiwan, the vet degree is a 5-year degree, which is not postgrad. And on my 5th year, that's the year of our internship. And I saw a lot of pedigree dogs with inherited diseases. So at that time, I started to realize that maybe it's not enough to be a vet. Maybe I want to help animal, a bunch of animal at once. And that's the point, the viewpoint from an epidemiologist, because epidemiology is a method of studying the disease dynamics, transmission, and risk factors from a population point of view. So we don't treat specific or individual animals. We look at the diseases from a population perspective. So that's why I took my journey to become an veterinary epidemiologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. Your perspective to look at the size of your impact you can have on.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it was just I didn't actually when I was a vet student, I didn't take. I did take the veterinary epidemiology unit, but I wasn't a very good student, so I didn't learn it very well. But naturally, when you want to help something, I guess quantity also matter. So that's why it just the field fits what I wanted to do fits into the field quite well.
Mm. But then going to the welfare part, so how do you combine then epidemiology with animal welfare?
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because when we think about epidemiology, I don't know in Germany, but in Taiwan, and from my experience internationally, when we think about epidemiology, it's mostly on animal diseases. It's usually on diseases in human, in animals, and I'm not too sure about human, because when they talk about public health, they also include mental health, the field of public health. So for me, my interest is always about the welfare of animal. Actually, I wanted to help animals when I was, in high school, and although I didn't know the term animal welfare, but what I was thinking was about their welfare. Right, and epidemiology is more like a way of looking at the welfare issue from, like I mentioned before, from a more individual point of view to a more population point of view. So I think as in human medicine, in public health, they also use the epidemiological methods to study the mental health of humans. So in animal or in veterinary medicine, it also makes sense. We can use the epidemiological methods from a more population perspective to look at the welfare issues. So I think it's just what I am interested and the methods that I use to study what I am interested or what I care about.
In the beginning, when you introduced yourself, you mentioned that you were holding a speech, or giving a speech about One Welfare, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the term One Health is more popular. Yeah. Even this term, it's sometimes really hard to make people aware of. But what would you say is then the connection, or where is it maybe also very similar, the phrase or the term One Health and then One Welfare?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't say they are similar to some extent, to quite a lot of extent, but the key point, I think there are two key points which are different between One Health and One Welfare. The first one is that in One Welfare, animal welfare is included, which is not in One Health. Okay. So the second thing is, in One Health, I think the end goal of using this framework is to promote the health or the welfare of humans. So the topics that they research on or the problems they try to solve are more about the more high impact issues in human health, such as zoonotic diseases or antimicrobial resistance and food safety and securities. But the animal's health and the environmental health are also included in the whole framework because those big issues are related to animals and to the environment. For example, food safety and security, a lot of food for human beings are animal products and might have big environmental impact when we raise those animals and to become products. And or say, for example, zoonotic diseases like COVID-19. I think after COVID-19, everyone knows, not everyone, but the concept of One Health become quite popular. Yes, so zoonotic diseases from animals, even from wildlife, which live in the nature. So One Health tries to solve the problem that concerns human greatly. But for One Welfare, the topics that they try to use the framework to research on are quite different. I think One Welfare focus more equally on these three dimensions, on human well-being, animal welfare, and environmental conservation. So topics related to animal welfare, related to animal abuse, human-animal health, food safety, security, and climate change, sustainabilities. Those topics are more appeared in the dimension of One Welfare. So for me, if we use a term to describe the core of these two frameworks, I would say One Health is more anthropocentric, but One Welfare is more like ecocentric, or concern more about the welfare of animal and the whole justice system for both animal, environment, and humans. That's a long answer, isn't it?
It's a long answer, yeah, that's true, but I mean, it's a proper answer actually, because it's a very complex question, and yeah, I realize that we have so many words almost describing the same things. Like, we don't only have One Welfare and One Health, we have planetary health, eco-health, yeah. And there are differences. There are like different communities that have also sometimes a struggle to like talk to each other and work with each other. So I think it's really important to know the differences, but then especially also the similarities, because I feel at the end, creating a better future and a better world is the goal for everyone. And it doesn't matter that in which like subgroup you are actually.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I guess why I resonate more with One Welfare is my personal interest for animal welfare. And I do think that's an important aspect to be included in the picture, because when we are talking about an issue that only concerns the issue that the final goal only concerns the well-being of humans, sometimes it might not be the best solution for the problem, or maybe not the most just solution for the topic. So for me, that's important to have animal welfare considered.
Okay, so I have a question regarding the conference you attended in I think it was in August this year. It was about the psychological well-being of exhibited animals in Taiwan, yeah. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the conference?
Well, I was just a participant in the conference, but it was such a great conference. It's a conference called Beyond Survival. So what they intended to achieve is to include the psychological perspective of animal welfare in the conversation. So they invited, I think, 5 very important, very well-known zoo or exhibit animal welfare scientists, included Professor Donald Brew, who is very famous. I really enjoyed the conference. And because I don't do research on zoo animal welfare, but there are similarities and knowledge I can learn from. And at the conference, the talk given by Dr. Jake Basay, whose company, Care for the Rare, was dedicated on the design of the environment of the captivity for those zoo animals. So in his talk, he mentioned that because we know there are 3 welfare concepts that we often use in the academia. That's biological functioning, effective state, and natural living. Recently, biological functioning and effective state become more prominent, especially effective state. And then he was talking about natural living a lot, because for those zoo animals, though natural living is it's very important compared to, say, farm animals or domestic companion animals. And something that I really like is when he talk about natural living, he mentioned that, you know, when wild animals live in the wild, it's maybe it's not the best environment for those animals, because, you know, in the wild they have to go through the tough weather, tough climate, and predation from other animals. But if we can, as a zoo, I say he might be like a zoo designer. As a zoo designer, if you can set up the environment close enough to their habitat, but without those threats, in those environments, the welfare of those animals might be even better than, you know, living in the wild or in other kind of environments, such as more intensive environment. And that's something that really opened my eye, because I've never thought like that. And when in the past, when I visited zoo or other aquarium environments, those environment were not good enough for me. But it seems that there is a possibility where we could even make the welfare of the animal better than they living in the wild. And that's something very novel and inspiring for me, I think.
Yeah. A very interesting perspective then, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. You said that, I mean, zoo animals is not your main research topic, but more companion animals.
Yeah.
Were there like some highlights or like some takeaway messages for you that you learned from the zoo animal conference or like the exhibited animal conference, and that you can like now use maybe also for your work around companion animals?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll still go back to the talk from Jake, because when they were designing the environment for different animals, they tried to incorporate different experts, and then to take on their expertise on, say, welfare, health, behavior, and then to look into what welfare needs are important for the animal and incorporate those needs in the design of their environment. And I think to really look into their behavior needs are something that changed my perspective on how we can design the environment for domestic animals, especially dogs and cats. One of my projects that is currently on, like we are doing this project, that is to quantify the welfare of shelter dogs. Yeah. And then we look into what kind of welfare issues that might occur in the public shelter in Taiwan. We are focusing on dog right now. Maybe we will do it for cats in the future. To systematically examine what kind of welfare issue that they might encounter. Now I include more behavioral perspective into the system that examine their needs in the shelter. So I think that they help me try to look more holistically on the issue of dog welfare in the shelters.
Maybe we can now go to your work, like what kind of research you are doing in the animal welfare or One Welfare aspect. You mentioned one project that is now ongoing, so that you're doing some research about, especially dogs in public shelters, because there might be differences between public shelters and private ones. Maybe you can like tell us about other projects that you're still doing or projects that have been already finished. What kind of topics did you dealt with so far?
So this project that I'm doing, the one I just mentioned, that was, trying to quantify the welfare of the welfare impact from the welfare issues in shelter. But this method that's gonna be applied for this specific project was developed during my PhD. And this method is called WALI, Welfare Adjusted Life Year, which was adapted from a very widely applied method that's called DALI, Disability Adjusted Life Year. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, quite recently. So in this year, so this summer when I was doing a course, but it's an interesting, very interesting method. Maybe you can explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, so DALI, that's being used for the WHO project, Global Burden of Disease. That is a method to quantify the health burden from different diseases on different populations. So it's a global project that has been done in, I would say, most countries for important diseases. So DALI, this method, similar in WALI, that consider two different aspects that cause the health burden to humans and to animal in WALI. The first aspect is how much, in human, that's in how much health impact, negative health impact, one disease imposed on an individual and the population. You can times some parameter and it will be estimated from individual to population. And that's the first aspect. So the second aspect is how many years would one health issue or a disease shorten the life of an individual or the population. One disease in dog as an example. So for example, let me think. Dilated cardiomyopathy, which is a heart disease, a severe heart disease in dog. Specifically, it's more likely to occur in larger dogs like golden retrievers. And those diseases might compromise the welfare of dogs while the dog is alive with the disease, you know. But then, because the disease is quite severe, so it will kill the dog quite early, so the prognosis is not very good. So suppose the dog was gonna, averagely one golden retriever might live till maybe 13 years old, but because of the disease, the dog might die around 7. So there will be 6 years that the dog didn't live because of the disease. So that is the second aspect of WALI. Yeah. So we developed this methods and we applied to 10 different diseases. And actually, dilated cardiomyopathy was one of them, but I don't remember the specific number. So how much welfare that was, how much welfare compromise that was cost, and how many years that was lost due to cardiomyopathy. The number was made up by me. I'm sorry. But yes. So we did it for 10 different diseases, and now we are trying to apply this same method with some modification and to quantify the welfare issue in the public shelters.
Yeah, are there some experiences from you where you can say there are differences between the public and the private shelters that may have an impact on the welfare of the animals there?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a tough subject because, in general, in my understanding, that public shelter, although the welfare needs has a lot of room to be improved, but the welfare of dogs in public shelter is much better than in most private shelters, actually. And I'll say it's a difficult issue to tackle because in Taiwan we have the no-kill policy, which means we don't kill dogs for the reason of population control. We do have quite many stray dogs, free-roaming dogs in Taiwan, but after 2018, the public shelters cannot kill dogs for dog population control anymore, which means the capacity of sheltering dog is very limited. So many public shelters, they have to work with the private shelter in order to have more dogs sheltered. Otherwise, it would be just too overcrowded in the public shelter, and the welfare of dogs, can be really bad. So yeah, for now we focus on public shelter, and even though it's still a very sensitive topic to do research on, because no one wants to be found out that the welfare of their dogs, are not good. So we are just using public shelter as an environment where we can find out what kind of issue might compromise the welfare of dogs to what extent. So yeah, we are not, trying to blame them or trying to say you're not doing a good job. That's not what we are trying to do. This will be linked back to the issue of One Welfare, because it's not just the dogs and cats who are having compromised welfare in the public shelter, but also the shelter staff. Yeah, the workload and the pressure from the public, from the legislators even, they are under great pressure. So I think it's an issue that require more attention and it does have a lot of attention already, but I'll say require more scientific research, which can show the evidence of, and that can help to kind of direct the policy to help the welfare of animals and humans.
Mm-hmm. That reads perfectly to my next question, because I was wondering, at least from your perspective, how much awareness is there in the Taiwanese public about not only animal welfare in general, but especially then maybe because you're doing your research about the sheltered animals, how much awareness is there already, and do you think there needs to be more awareness even regarding animals that are being sheltered?
Yeah. I would say the awareness towards the welfare of shelter animals are quite high. Yeah. The development of the sense of animal welfare in the public is quite different from the history in Europe, because it started from companion animals, actually. Yeah. So when we talk about animal welfare in Taiwan, more people will think about companion animals. A lot of them will think about shelter dogs and also free-roaming dogs. Actually, in Taiwan, I think more awareness would be needed to be directed to farm animal welfare, actually. And we are starting slowly. But yeah, there is still a long way to go. I think only in recent year, maybe in the recent 5 years, we have the first animal assurance program for layers and dairy cattle. And it's also from animal welfare organization in Taiwan, and they are trying to promote more assurance program for other animals. So yeah, I would say that the welfare of farm animal is something that we should try to promote more.
Yeah, that's something, I think really, not really eye-opening, but I think something, at least I as a German citizen and a German veterinarian, we tend to, because, of course we learn our national laws and learn a lot about our national animal welfare programs and legislation and stuff. Which makes absolutely sense, because that's probably the most likely field or area where we are going to work. But then to see, and that's really interesting what you mentioned, is the history of the awareness. Where did it start and how has it developed over the last at least like 100, 150 years maybe, because I think earlier then there was not really animal welfare, at least it was very little. Because then it makes more sense if you see how different legislation in different countries is, like where they focus on. If it's like wildlife, I think wildlife is really, really underrepresented. And then to see the difference between companion animals that are living with us in our own houses, and then farm animals, which are for most of the public far away, and we like only consume products from them and of them.
Yeah, like the law, the Animal Protection Act, that's the law for animal welfare. Many people make joke on this law because half of it is about dogs and cats. So that's very different. And although all the owned animals are considered in the law, but I think dogs and cats have more like specific sections for, say, breeding or selling, and also for the stray and shelter situation. But very little is on the farm animal, and that makes the promotion of farm animal welfare quite difficult, because all the resources and attention are on the companion animals. And even the law reinforcer, they want to tackle on the welfare issue on farm animals. It's too difficult because I don't know, maybe over 80-90% of the animals were not in a good welfare state in the current situation. So yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement.
We talked now about animal welfare. Maybe going a bit back to One Welfare, do you think that people in Taiwan know the term, like how much awareness is about One Welfare? And maybe you have some more examples of where we actually can see the connection between human well-being and animal welfare, because I think that's sometimes really difficult to picture. The one example was already mentioned by you about the sheltered dogs, and then the impact it can also, like this work environment can have also on the staff working there. Do you have some more examples maybe?
Well, in Taiwan, I'll answer the first question. So I guess like other parts of the world, One Health is much more well known than One Welfare. And when I teach One Welfare to the students, I will ask them, do you know this term, One Welfare? I think we don't even have a set translation for in Chinese for the word One Welfare. So yeah, in my experience, that's something still quite unfamiliar for most people. And another example, I think another good example is about layer industry in Taiwan. So currently, the organization I mentioned before, they are trying to promote banning battery cage for the layers in Taiwan. And that's about 80% of the layer farm in Taiwan. And in those farms, they are very traditional, and they are kind of more, how do you say, like young people wouldn't want to work in those kind of environments, because you can see the health and the welfare of those layers are not good, and the whole environment is, not hygienic and stinky, and the whole thing doesn't look attractive. So for those farmers who work, still in the industry, it's also not easy for them. They don't have good knowledge about how to manage their farm, or they are lack of knowledge of biosecurity. So with the current outbreaks of avian influenza, it becomes very difficult for them to care for their chicken well, and of course their income will be are affected by those outbreaks. And in Taiwan, there's an interesting phenomenon, that is the price of eggs is decided by a group of like 10 people. So every week or something, they will have a meeting and then consider the current situation and decide, okay, how much is the chicken egg price when they buy the eggs from those farmers. So because this kind of situation, even though when the farmers, they don't take good care of the chicken and the quality of the eggs might not be good, but they can still sell their eggs on the kind of stable price. So there's no incentive for them to improve the whole situation of their farm. But still, if the avian influenza or other kind of diseases attacked, then they will still be greatly affected by the situation. So without the system, the farmers, they are quite fragile when the disease occurred. So the security of their job or their life is affected, which is very different from the more newer type of chicken farming, which take care more about the welfare of the animal and the biosecurity of the farm. And those farms, they are not as affected by those natural disaster or diseases. So if we want to improve the whole industry, I think it's important to make sure the welfare and health of chicken, of the layer, and also to promote the industry, the knowledge of the farmers, and to make sure that they are not as sensitive to the external factors that might affect the industry.
So that in the end it's a more, I'd say, more stable and sustainable way to produce those products, so those produced those eggs actually, so that they are not as greatly affected by, as you mentioned, external factors, so that they have ways to like balance this out.
And also it's more secure for the farmers to be sustained in the industry.
So here we see that where it is connected, the well-being of the human, which is, I think, more the financial side of their well-being, is then connected to the biosecurity, which means the welfare and the health of the animals, so to say. So we can see here the connection.
Yeah, definitely. And also, it's connected, somehow connected to the environment as well, because when the farm is well designed, actually the use of electricity, the use of water, and the waste from the chicken would be decreased a lot. So that will also help to have the industry more sustainable.
Okay, I think we're coming to the end now slowly, because I was wondering, it's now almost the end of the year, so it's December 2023. Your project that we talked a bit about the dog shelters, or sheltered dogs, is still going on. Are there other projects for the next years? What is your plan for the next years? Are there like really great things coming up? What are you looking forward to?
Next year, so another project is trying to see what kind of measure can be most effective in helping to reduce the number of free-roaming dogs in Taiwan. So currently what we are using predominantly is TMVR, trap, neuter, vaccination, and return. And although there are quite a lot of research and some review already, but in Taiwan it's a big debate whether this is the most useful methods. And so I would review different methods and trying to see their effectiveness and also cost effectiveness helping to reduce the number of free roaming dogs in Taiwan. And what else? We also have a project that's going on is to survey on exotic veterinarian about the welfare of exotic mammal pets in Taiwan, because I think the welfare of exotic pet is another issue that's getting bigger and bigger. I'm not sure in Germany, but definitely in Taiwan, more people like that, like those kind of pets, and really know how to take care of them very well. So that's something we are doing now for small mammal and hopefully maybe for birds and reptile in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really, really interesting actually, especially the exotic animals. I mean, that's a global issue as well because it's a global market. And it's always about demand and supply here. When you mention like exotic mammals, then what is the most demanded mammal in Taiwan? Because I'm really curious about that, because I know like some numbers in Europe maybe, but I have no clue about Taiwan.
Well, the most common ones are still those like guinea pig or rabbit or hamster, ferret, what's the name? A sugar glider, popular ones. But we also started to have like llama, meerkat, and like small kangaroo, those kind of things. Yeah, I didn't know there were such a big variety, but apparently it is.
Well, I'm really looking forward to get to know more about your research then next year. Yeah. You said that you're also teaching young students. Maybe you can give like some final words, or maybe also if I didn't ask like certain aspects of your work, you can now have the chance to like talk about this. But my last question would be, what would be your advice for them, for either students or the ones that have just started their career? What can you give them from your expertise and your knowledge?
Well, I think Taiwan, there might be a big cultural difference. So the vet students in Taiwan might be quite different from the vet student in Germany or in Europe. But I would say, I guess one of the most important thing is the ability to learn by ourselves. I think it's important to feed on our curiosity, to try explore, like Marsha, explore different things. Because only by experience we know whether we like this path or not. And the other thing is that I don't know in Germany, but in Taiwan, the mental health issue for veterinarian that I can see quite, so I don't want to use severe, but it's something that you notice even in the veterinary students. So I always encourage students to start to look within since they are still young. So I think it's not possible to take care of others or other animals if we don't take a good care of ourselves. So that's something I always encourage students to do, but it's not very easy because usually if you don't get to the point where you are depressed, you usually don't look at it. But that's important, I think.
I mean, that's always the case. As long as it doesn't really affect you, you think it's like so far away and you don't really need to care because there are so many other more important things right now. But then when you're at that point, then it might be even a bit more difficult to like reach out and get help.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's some really important and good advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much. It was a lovely chat with you. I'm really happy that I had the time and the chance to like meet you again here. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Marsha, for inviting me. It's really an honor for me, and let's help animals together.
And that's it. If you have learned something new or maybe also have been inspired, please share it with someone you know. So let's make the world together a little wiser. If you want to find out more about Kendy's work, you can find her email address in the description, but you can also just have a look on ResearchGate. If you ever make it to Taiwan, or if you're already there, make sure to reach out to her. She's really an amazing person.